Okay, welcome to Introduction Java Programming by White and Yang, 8th edition. Chapter 3, Selections, Listing number 2. Write a program that prompts the user to enter an integer. If the integer is divisible by 5, the program should display high 5. If the integer is divisible by 2, the program should display high even. If the integer is divisible by both, then both messages should be displayed. Let me add here. Otherwise, the program displays that the integer is not divisible by 5 nor by 2, like that. Okay, so to start, I'm gonna need to prompt the user to enter an integer value, so I'm gonna need to import java.util.scanner, like that. So now I can start by declaring my scanner reference. I'll name my reference as input and assign it to new scanner system dot in, like that. So scanner reference to read user input. And here I'm gonna need an integer variable to store my integer value. So integer value given by the user. So the first step is gonna be prompting the user to enter an integer. So printing out enter an integer. Now to save my integer value to the integer variable, I assign integer to input, calling the method next int. Now that I have my integer value saved, I can now verify if the integer is even, odd, no, is divisible by 5, 2, both, or none. And displaying the result like that. So if I want to start by using conditions, I start with an if statement, an if keyword followed by parentheses. Between my parentheses is going to be my condition, or it can be a boolean value, but a boolean value is resulted by a condition. So my first condition is if the integer is divisible by 5 and by 2, because it says here if the integer is divisible by both. So I'll take that as my first condition. So my condition here is gonna be if the integer is divisible by 5, so integer radian 5 equal to 0. Let me start by this condition so that you guys won't get lost. So if the integer is divisible by 5, it should print high 5. High 5. Let me just run it so you guys can see. I want to enter an integer divisible by 5, so 10, high 5. 15, high 5. Okay? So, my second condition that I want to implement if the integer is divisible by 2. So if the integer is not divisible by 5 but divisible by 2, so in here I'm going to use else if and make my condition whether the integer is divisible by 2. If that's the case, it should print high even. So I'm going to enter a number divisible by 2 and not divisible by 5, so 8 high even. 42 high even, so works. If it's not divisible by nor 5 nor by 2, I can just use the else keyword, open up a block, and make it print that the integer is not divisible by 5 nor by 2. Gonna add a number, let's say 11, not divisible by 5 nor by 2. Now, the last condition I want to implement if the integer is divisible by both. So, of course, I have to add this condition as my first condition, because in every system the compiler runs from top to bottom. So like if I want to implement my condition here, let's say integer divisible by 5 equal to 0, and my other condition being if integer is divisible by 2 equal to 0. Okay, let me make it print high 5 and high even. So adding a number that's divisible by 5 and by 2, let's say 20, just prints high 5. And the text here is bold because this code is unreachable, because the compiler goes here and ignores all the rest of the blocks. As always, if the first condition is true, then all of the rest of the conditions are ignored. So this is a feature in IntelliJ. If the code is unreachable, then they highlight the code as bold. So let me add my condition as my first condition. Sorry, I should have covered. Let me just copy and paste it here. And like that, it should work. So let me add 20, high 5, high even. Also printed high 5 and I can't add an else block here because again this code would be unreachable. So how do I solve this? I solve this by adding these two conditions in a single if statement. So let's do that. Let me add an else here. Integer radian 2 equal to 0. Doesn't work. It's not taken as a statement. So if I want to combine these two conditions, I need to use something called a binary operator. A binary operator is an operator that combines two conditions. Combines two conditions to make one condition for the if statement. So in here I use the AND binary operator that makes this condition work as if I want both of these conditions to be true in order to print high five and high even. Whereas if one of these conditions is false, then all of these conditions are false. Therefore, the system will check the rest of the conditions. So let's try again. Let me just run it. 20, high five and high even. And again. 15, high five. 10, oh, high five, high even. A number that's only divisible by 2, 6, high even. And by none, let's say 17. The integer is not divisible by 5 nor by 2. So like that, we would have written a program that prompts the user to enter an integer, verifies if the integer is divisible by 5, 2, both, or none, and displays the result.